Hey, it's Vicky and I'm back with another vlog, and this go around I wanted to do another Goodreads centered vlog. I haven't done one I think since about this time last year, but I wanted to do one because I realized that it has been 10 years since I joined Goodreads. I joined Goodreads in 2012, and so I want to kind of try to maybe do some more Goodreads type of videos here on the channel. So if you have any ideas or things that you want to see from me that are Goodreads related, please let me know because I would love to look for some ideas. Hi, our girl here has officially taken over my chair in my library. I barely ever get to sit here anymore. Look, she's pushing me out. She's pushing me. So this go around, I want to do a Goodreads centered vlog, and I figured what better time to do this one than now, because like I said, it's been 10 years, and so I was curious to know what book I have had on my Goodreads TBR the longest. Like, what book did I put on there, let's just say back in 2012 when I started my Goodreads, and it's still there. So that's what we're gonna do today. So I'm going to, excuse me, ma'am. Oh, okay. Oh, that works out much better for me. So the only like kind of caveat, I don't even know if that's the right word to use for this, is that if it's a Stephen King book and it's not the next Stephen King book I'm trying to read, because I'm trying to read his books in order, then I'm gonna skip it. So the next Stephen King book I'm like set to read is, I believe, Nightmares and Dreamscapes, which is a short story collection. And so if it's that one, great, but if it's any other Stephen King book, because I remember I did like throw like pretty much every Stephen King book I haven't read on my Goodreads TBR right away. So if it's not Nightmares and Dreamscapes, I'm gonna skip it and just go to the next book. The time has come to see what is on my Goodreads TBR. Usually I organize my Goodreads TBR like by just when I added it, so that works out very well. So funny enough, I'm talking about Stephen King. The most recent book I've added is his new one called Fairy Tale that comes out later this year, so that's interesting. But let's reverse it and see what book has been on there the longest. And it even tells me when I put it on. So let's see what we got. Okay, so no surprise. Like I said, it's a bunch of Stephen King books. So we have Cell, Under the Dome, Bag of Bones, Desperation, but none of those are Nightmares and Dreamscapes. So I'm going to just skip over those. And the next one, oh, The Haunting of Hill House by Shirley Jackson, which I'm almost embarrassed to say I have not read, because it's like a horror classic, and Shirley Jackson is one of those writers, horror writers, that everybody talks about. Are you okay, Morgan? And yeah, I haven't really read any Shirley Jackson, I'm ashamed to say. I did read The Lottery in college, and that's it. So I think this is great because it's gonna force me to finally read The Haunting of Hill House, which is a book that I kind of know the plot of because I've seen a couple of the film adaptations. And obviously The Haunting of Hill House, the Netflix show, does not follow the book as far as I understand. It definitely took some liberties, but I loved that series. It was so good. But yeah, so I kind of know the plot. What does it have on? No, I'm just looking. It has a 3.83 rating, 210,794 ratings, and I added it to my Goodreads TBR on January 25th, 2012. But yeah, why haven't I read this book? I don't know. But basically, if I remember right, it centers around a group of people who go to a house to do some sort of study. I can't remember exactly. And it focuses more on one character named Eleanor, I think. And yeah. So I'm really excited to read this because, like I said, how have I not read The Haunting of Hill House? How have I not? So it's definitely one that I need to check off. So I think, I'm pretty sure my library has this on audio. I think I might try to listen to the audiobook of this one and go from there. Although it isn't a book I would mind owning, like to have on my shelves, because it is a horror classic. So yeah, I'm gonna take you guys along with me. And I think this one's gonna be good. I think I'm gonna enjoy this. Yeah. So once I figure out, like I said, I'm pretty sure I'm gonna do the audiobook, but once I figure it out for sure, I will let you know and give you guys an update.
I'm ready. Let's see if she goes up. Oh, there she goes. What? Whoa, that was, oh my god, that's a big surround of them.
All right, so I got a copy of The Haunting of Hill House. Leia, proud mommy moment. She had a half day not too long ago, and Hunter still had school. So it basically, the afternoon was just gonna be her and I. So I said, hey, do you wanna like do something? You know, since it's just us girls. And she said, Mom, can we go to the bookstore? And I was like, of course we can. So she picked up some books. She's been really into Dog Man recently and a couple other things. And I picked up The Haunting of Hill House. So I haven't quite started it yet. I was reading a little bit of the introduction, but was finding it's one of those introductions that is a little bit spoilery. So I stopped reading it because I don't want to be spoiled for this. I don't want to know any details. So yeah, but so basically I'm just updating you to let you know that I have the book and I'm going to start reading the book. But I actually had a question for you plant parents out there, if there are any of you out there, because I got this plant and I'll insert a picture of it right now. That I got it from my local like Home Depot. And I love the way it looks. It's so pretty, but it didn't have a tag or anything on it. And so I don't know what kind of plant it is. And I've tried Googling it, and I'm not really getting a clear answer. So if any of you out there can tell me what this plant is, I would so appreciate it. I already had to repot it because it was severely root bound in the pot that it came in, where I had to like cut the pot to get it out. So I hope it's happier, a little happier now, in a little bit of a bigger pot. But yeah, I want to know, I just like to know exactly what kind of plant it is, you know, for like troubleshooting and things, because that happens to me sometimes with plants where something will start happening with it and I don't know what to do, and it helps to know what kind of plant it is. So yeah, that's it for now. This was a silly update because I haven't even started reading the book yet, but when I do, I'll check in. And also, I wanted to note that I didn't realize how short this book is. It's under 200 pages. I did not realize it was that short, so this should not take me long, hopefully not. And yeah, I'll check in when I start reading it. So I've officially started The Haunting of Hill House, and I've read the first chapter, which is about 25 pages or so. And so at this point, they haven't even gotten to Hill House yet, but you're introduced to the main character, Eleanor. And so far, I really love what Shirley Jackson is already setting up with in regards to Eleanor, because just in this first 25 pages, as you meet her and she's on her way to Hill House, you definitely get the sense that she is a very isolated person. She doesn't really have any sort of close relationships with anyone. She doesn't have, her only family is her sister, whom she lives with, and you see them like together in a scene before she leaves to go to Hill House, and you can tell that they do not have a good relationship. She talks about or whenever she has these sort of kind of daydreams as she's traveling, most of them involve her in like sort of mystical, magical, sort of fairy tale places, but often she is alone. So you just get this sense that she is an isolated, lonely woman, and that because she sort of has that sort of loneliness to her, that when she gets to Hill House, that's definitely going to kind of set her up to be more susceptible to the house and whatever is going on there in terms of hauntings or ghosts or whatever. So it's interesting because she's done all of that in 25 pages. So I just love that. I think it's amazing that you already get a really great sense of who Eleanor is and how she's gonna kind of react in this house, and she's not even there yet. I'm really intrigued for sure, and I really like the writing. So yeah, hopefully now she's gonna get to the house, meet the other people, and maybe spooky stuff will start happening. I don't know, but already I'm super enjoying this. So Hunter and I just went to the library, and I wanted to share with you what I got. Hunter got a bunch of books. He always does really well when we go to the library. He always finds lots of things to read, but I always check the ongoing Friends of the Library sale, and they had something this time that I wanted to make sure I grabbed, and that is Desperation by Stephen King, because this is coming up soon. I'm trying to read his books chronologically, and I think this year, so at some point this year, this is one of the ones I have to read. So it's a mass market paperback, which I don't mind because it's a normal sized mass market paperback. It's not one of those tall, skinny, weird ones. But I mean, it's kind of chunky. It's over 500 pages, but I have no idea what this one's about, but I just know that it's like coming up for me to read. And then I checked out from the library, hold on. I checked out from the library, speaking of my houseplants, and that trying to identify that one that I got. I grabbed this to check out, to borrow. It's called How Not to Kill Your Houseplant, Survival Tips for the Horticulturally Challenged. And I kind of flipped through it, and I still don't think it's any of the plants listed in here, because at the whole front it gives you like just a bunch of different houseplants, like the most typical ones, and then later on in the book you like flip to it and it tells you how to take care of it. And I still don't know, looking through this one, I'm still not finding it. I found all my other houseplants, and just like kind of from just briefly looking through this, all this stuff you could probably just find on Google, honestly, like if you know what kind of plant you have. All this info is definitely available online, but this looked like a cute little book, so you know, I checked it out from the library. But yeah, so I'm almost 100 pages in to The Haunting of Hill House. I don't have it like right here right now, but and I'm enjoying it a lot. There's just it's a lot of like character building, and I love how, in addition to meeting the people in the story, because there's Eleanor, our main character, and then there's a woman named Theo, who I really enjoy, who is also staying at the house, and then the doctor, who is sort of putting on this whole study that they're doing, this paranormal sort of study, and then this guy Luke, who is he's a family member, like the family that owns the house. He is part of that family, and so he's just there to kind of not necessarily be part of the experiment, but because his family owns the house, he's kind of there to keep an eye on things. So what I love too is, though, you also meet Hill House as if itself is a character, and I loved that. In how, as you're reading, you feel that this house has a personality, and it's just very strange, even in the way it was constructed, and the layout of the house is just strange, and it's great. I mean, it's like definitely setting up to be just a great haunted house sort of psychological story. So I can see why, you know, nowadays people look at this book and say that it's a classic in the horror genre, especially if you're looking for like either like haunted house stuff or like psychological. Yeah, so I have no complaints so far. I think it's great, and I can't wait to read more. So yeah, I'm gonna go do that now because I just took Hunter to school, so I have some time now to sit and read, so I'm gonna go do that. So in case you're wondering what's happening here, Morgan's tennis ball for outside is frozen to the ground. And she is trying her hardest to get it out. She's been working on it for a few minutes now. Hey, so I'm sitting in my kitchen in like a kind of a weird spot, but I feel like I always film in the same spots when I vlog, and so I wanted like a different locale, and this has pretty good lighting too. So, okay, anyway, you don't care. I'm about to finish Haunting of Hill House. I have about 40 pages to go, so. And before, I wanted to make sure I checked in one more time before I finished it, because I had some thoughts about it before I get to the ending. And I think the first thought that I have is, if you go into this book thinking you're gonna get a ghost story, you may be disappointed. This is definitely about the psychology of a woman who happens to be also in a paranormal situation, but there's not a lot in here, at least, who knows, the last 40 pages there might be some stuff, but there hasn't been a ton in here that people would call like scary, but there are parts that are kind of unsettling, and you're just seeing this woman become more and more affected by this house. So I guess people, and also people that like go into this after watching the Haunting of Hill House Netflix series and then think that they're getting that in a novel form, you are gonna be so confused and like, what is this? Because it is nothing like the series, which I knew going into the book. I knew that it was not gonna be the same at all. But I think from what I remember of the Netflix series, because it has been a couple years since I watched that, a lot of the sort of themes though, and just the overall sort of mood and tone of the book is present in this series. So I really think that even though Mike Flanagan like kind of took this, I mean, it says inspiration. So he definitely got inspiration for the show from this. He took all of the really important bits, I think, and just kind of did a different thing with it. But yeah, I actually want to rewatch that series now, having read this, just because I want to rewatch it. A, because it was fantastic, and then B, because I've now read the book, so I can kind of do more of a comparison, even though, like I said, the story is nothing like this, like the book. I think this is interesting though, like, it's just, I can't really explain it. It's horror because there is, you know, just this, I don't know how to describe it, this sort of sense of just foreboding with this character. And there is a little bit of supernatural stuff, but that's not the star of the show, really. It's all about Eleanor and her mind and just where she is mentally. And the house, though, does have, you know, an interesting history, kind of a dark history, and it's just a strange house. But yeah, I also really want to watch the movie from the 60s that came out, just called The Haunting, because I've heard it's really good. I saw the newer one that was like the late 90s one with like Catherine Zeta-Jones and I think Owen Wilson. in it too. And I wondered, and I thought it was good when I saw it, but now I wonder if like if I read the book, now that I've read the book, if I'll think that movie's any good. I don't know. Maybe I'll do a comparison of the two compared to the book. I don't know. Maybe a future Flicks and Lit will be coming your way because of this. I don't know. But I just wanted to say that before I finished the book. That it's a horror novel, but it's quiet. And if you're looking for like, oh, overall creepiness and oh, this haunted house, like you're not gonna get that here. But that doesn't mean it isn't good, because it's good. So, okay, I'm gonna go finish this and then come back later with my final thoughts. All right, guys, I finished The Haunting of Hill House, so I want to give you my final thoughts on the book. Like I said in my last clip, it is definitely a horror story, but if you are looking for a horror story that has a lot of creepy, scary moments, and all of that, you may go into this and be disappointed, because though it does have a couple of scenes that were kind of intense, kind of creepy, definitely not the creepiest I've ever read, but they were there. Overall, it's not overly scary or has a lot of that spooky supernatural stuff in it. But that doesn't mean that this isn't a good book, because I did really enjoy this overall. It had this element of, along with the horror stuff and the psychological stuff, it had a little bit of like humor and sarcasm, like in the way that the characters kind of interacted with each other, the way they just be like sitting around chatting and just kind of like, yeah, just like, it was almost like they were just like at a dinner party and not necessarily staying in this creepy haunted house. So it also had like a cozy vibe, which I know is kind of weird to say, but it did. It sort of felt cozy at times, because you kind of felt like you were there, like you were part of the dinner party. I don't know. Even though it wasn't a dinner party. It was not a dinner party, but it felt like that sometimes. And like I said in the beginning, Eleanor as a character was really interesting to me. There was a lot going on with her, right? And the way that the book ended, it all sort of like her and her connection, her relationship, if you will, with the house was really interesting. And I really ended up liking it. I know there were parts about her that were kind of irritating at times, like the way she would repeat certain phrases throughout the book and stuff, and kind of how she's kind of started to act towards the other people there towards the end. You're kind of like, what's going on here? But it all also, when you kind of step back and look at the whole picture, it totally makes sense why she's that way. And if you look, you know, and you really start to think more about her, like her psychological state when she went to Hill House, it also kind of makes sense why she was acting that way. I also liked the house. The house was a character in this book, totally, and I loved that. And I loved how everything that was going on in the story, the house had more of an effect on these people than they even realized while they were there. And I loved that too, that it was like it was almost like I said, they were acting like they were just like at a dinner party or whatever. And I don't know if it was like they were trying to pretend like stuff wasn't happening or what, but the house definitely had more of an effect on them than they wanted to admit. And the house was just awesome. I want to go to Hill House. Like, is there a real Hill House that I can go check out? Because I want to go there. As far as the ending goes, it is one of those ambiguous endings. So if you hate ambiguous endings, you might have a problem with the ending of this book. I did not mind it. I love that you're left kind of asking questions, because there are a couple questions towards the end with the ending where you're like, and I love that because it just leaves it open to your imagination. So overall, I am going to give The Haunting of Hill House 4 stars, because though, like I said, it wasn't as creepy as I was expecting, especially because, you know, this is on lists as like one of the creepiest books to read like during Halloween and like all this stuff. Though it wasn't as creepy as I was expecting, there were other aspects of it that came in that kind of just elevated it for me. So yeah, it wasn't super creepy. It didn't have a lot of scares. But the characters were interesting to me. The themes it explored were interesting to me. And overall, I just thought it was an enjoyable read. And this was my first time reading Shirley Jackson, other than, like, I think I mentioned, I did read The Lottery, like, way back, I think in college, and thought that that story was super, it sticks with you. It's like one of those stories that, like I said, I read it probably 20 years ago, and like my first semester in college, and I still remember that story. And now, of course, I want to read like everything Shirley Jackson has ever written because I really liked her writing. I really did. The way she did dialogue, all of it. All of it was great. Even though, like I said, it wasn't quite what I was expecting, it was still enjoyable, and I can see why people list this book as a classic horror novel because of what it did for the time period and stuff. Overall, I am so glad that I finally got around to reading this book. It's been on my Goodreads TBR. Like I said, the whole reason I read this book was because it was on one of the first books I put on my Goodreads TBR way back when I joined Goodreads. And I finally read it, and it was a good read. I don't know what took me so long. I really don't. But I'm glad it didn't disappoint. And yeah, now I gotta read more Shirley Jackson. So I know We Have Always Lived in the Castle is one that everybody talks about, and that's probably going to be the next one. So yes, if you have any other suggestions besides We Have Always Lived in the Castle and The Lottery, let me know because I want to read it all. So yes, I had fun with this vlog, and I hope you guys did too. I'm going to put this book down because I'm just waving it around like weirdo. Do me a favor and go on your Goodreads and tell me what the oldest book on your TBR is, just for fun, because that was the whole point of this vlog. So let me know that too. And I hope you guys are having a wonderful week, and I will talk with you later. Thanks so much for watching. Bye.